My parents threw me out like trash. Their words, not mine. I was 28 years old, standing in the middle of our family living room, with my suitcase by the door, listening to the two people who were supposed to love me unconditionally tell me I was a burden. But before I continue, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Your support keeps these stories alive, and it helps us share more tales of betrayal, resilience, and the sweetest karma. Now back to that night. I had always been the child who didn't fit the mold. My older brother had gone on to marry young, start a family and climb the corporate ladder. My younger sister had just graduated with honors and was engaged to her college sweetheart. And me? At 28, I was still living at home, working hard but barely scraping by, still chasing dreams my parents didn't understand. To them, my life was a disappointment. They called me directionless. They whispered about me being too old to still be figuring things out. And in their eyes, I had become a problem, an extra mouth to feed, a reminder of their so-called shame. That night, it all came crashing down. My mom's voice was sharp as a blade when she said, "Olivia, you can't keep staying here. You're almost 30. Do you expect us to carry you forever?" My dad, arms crossed, added, "You're draining us. We're tired of supporting someone who refuses to get their life together." I wanted to scream, to defend myself. I was working 2 jobs at the time, neither glamorous, but enough to keep me on my feet. I paid for my own groceries. I contributed to the bills when I could. But in their eyes, none of it was enough. "You're a burden," my mom said, the words slicing through me like knives. "Your brother is raising a family. Your sister is building a future. And you're just stuck." I felt my face burn with shame. I wanted to tell them I wasn't stuck, that I was trying, that life had thrown me harder challenges than they realized. But instead, I stood there in silence, my throat tight, my chest heavy. Then came the final blow. "If you want to keep living this way," my dad said coldly, "do it somewhere else. We won't watch you waste away under a roof." I looked around the room, at the house I had grown up in. The walls still held memories of my childhood laughter, birthdays, Christmas mornings. But in that moment, it was no longer home. It was rejection. So I packed what little I could into one bag, and without another word, I walked out. The night air was cold against my face as I stepped into the dark street. I remember pausing on the front porch, hoping, praying that one of them would call me back. That maybe my mom's heart would soften or my dad's pride would falter. But the door stayed shut. And just like that, I was alone. I didn't have savings. I didn't have a plan. I didn't even know where I would sleep that night. All I had was a broken heart and a suitcase that suddenly felt far too heavy for me to carry. I ended up crashing on a friend's couch, staring at the ceiling as tears soaked my pillow. Their voices echoed in my head, "You're a burden. You're wasting your life. We won't carry you anymore." For weeks, I carried that pain like a weight on my back. Every rejection letter from a job application, every shift I worked for minimum wage, every late night walk home, it all felt like proof that they had been right about me. I thought I was finished. But deep down, something started to shift. At first, it was small, just a flicker of anger, a whisper inside me saying, "They don't get to decide who I am. They don't get to write my story." But that whisper grew louder. And slowly, it turned into a fire. The same parents who threw me out like trash had unknowingly given me the greatest gift, a reason to rise. I didn't know how yet. I didn't know when. But I made a silent promise to myself that night, as I lay awake on that borrowed couch one day, I would come back. Not as the burden they claimed I was, but as the proof that they were wrong about me. And when that day came, they would regret every cruel word. I'll never forget what it felt like waking up that first morning on my friend's couch. My back was sore, my eyes were swollen from crying all night, and for a few seconds I forgot what had happened. Then it hit me again, the sharp reality that my parents had thrown me out, and I didn't have a home anymore. I was 28 years old, and I felt like a failure. But failure has a strange way of forcing you to choose, stay broken, or build something new. I didn't know it yet, but being thrown out was the push I needed. The first months were brutal. My friend could only let me stay temporarily, so I moved from one short-term room rental to another, carrying that same suitcase everywhere I went. I worked long hours at a coffee shop during the day and cleaned offices at night. Some nights, I'd walk home past families eating dinner together through their lit-up windows, and my chest would ache with a loneliness I can't even describe. Still, I refused to give up. Every dollar I earned, I saved. I skipped meals, wore second-hand clothes, and told myself this was only temporary. At first, all I wanted was survival. But slowly, survival turned into determination. I started taking online classes with the free Wi-Fi at the library. I was exhausted, sometimes I'd nod off with my head resting on the keyboard, but I kept going. Finance, marketing, business skills. I wanted to learn everything I could. People around me didn't see it, but I was laying bricks for a foundation no one could tear down. One night, while scrolling through job boards, I stumbled across a small startup looking for part-time help with social media. It wasn't glamorous, but it was different from scrubbing floors, so I applied. To my shock, they called me in. That interview changed everything. For the first time, someone saw potential in me. I didn't have the fancy degrees my siblings bragged about, but I had grit. I had stories of juggling 3 jobs, handling customers, and solving problems when everything seemed impossible. The manager hired me on the spot. I threw myself into that job with everything I had. I read books on branding, took free online courses, and even volunteered extra hours to learn more. Within 6 months, I wasn't just scheduling posts, I was running entire campaigns. My boss noticed, and soon I was promoted. The first paycheck that was more than just survival money. I cried holding it. For the first time in my adult life, I felt like I wasn't drowning. But I didn't stop there. I remembered every word my parents had said: burden, failure, wasting your life, and I used those words like fuel. Each time I wanted to quit, I pictured their faces. Not out of hate, but out of determination. I would prove them wrong. I started freelancing on the side, helping small businesses with marketing. Word spread, and soon I had more clients than I could handle. By the time I was 31, I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. I had my own apartment, my own car, a savings account with more money than I ever thought possible. And for the first time, I looked in the mirror and saw someone strong, capable, and proud. But you know what the sweetest part was? My success wasn't flashy. It wasn't about showing off. It was about the quiet satisfaction of knowing I had built it all with my own hands. Every sleepless night, every tear, every rejection, it all led me here. I hadn't spoken to my parents in years. No phone calls, no texts, nothing. They hadn't reached out either. And honestly, I didn't expect them to. In their eyes, I had been the shame of the family. My brother and sister were still their golden children. I was the mistake they had thrown out like trash. Or so I thought. Then one day, everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was in the middle of a client call when I saw a message notification pop up on my phone. The name on the screen made my stomach flip. It was my mother. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My hands trembled as I stared at the message preview. Olivia, we need to talk. It's urgent. My heart pounded. Why now? Why after all these years of silence? I ended the call quickly and sat there, staring at the phone. 1,000 thoughts ran through my head. Were they sick? Broke? Or did they just want to drag me back into the same old cycle of disappointment? I didn't reply right away. Instead, I let the message sit there, glowing on my screen like a ghost from my past. 2 days later, another message came. This time from my father. Olivia, please call us. We really need you. Need me. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same parents who had once told me I was nothing but a burden were suddenly the ones asking for my help. I felt a strange mix of emotions: anger, curiosity, and, deep down, a flicker of satisfaction. But I didn't answer. Not yet. I wanted to hear them say it. I wanted to hear with my own ears just how badly they regretted the way they had treated me. And little did I know, the truth I was about to uncover would be even more shocking than I imagined. When I finally agreed to see my parents, it was on my terms. I told myself I wouldn't fall apart in front of them. I wouldn't shrink back into the scared, unwanted daughter they had pushed out all those years ago. This time I would walk in as the woman I had become: strong, independent, and untouchable. I met them at a small cafe downtown. It was neutral territory, a place where neither of us held the upper hand. I got there first and sat near the window, my hands wrapped tightly around a cup of coffee I didn't really want. My heart raced so hard I thought the whole cafe could hear it. Then I saw them walk in. My mother's face was lined deeper than I remembered. My father's once proud posture was slouched, his steps slower. They looked older, smaller, like life had been chipping away at them piece by piece. For a moment, my chest ached with something I didn't want to admit: sympathy. They spotted me and hurried over, their expressions a mix of relief and nervousness. My mom reached for my hand, but I pulled it back gently, keeping my face unreadable. Olivia, she said softly, thank you for coming. We really need to talk. I took a slow sip of coffee, then set the cup down. Talk, I said flatly. My dad cleared his throat, his voice unsteady. Things haven't been good. We lost most of our savings after a bad investment. Your brother, he's struggling. And your sister moved away, she doesn't answer our calls anymore. Where he hesitated, we're drowning. I raised an eyebrow. And what does that have to do with me? Silence. My mother's eyes filled with tears. We need help, Olivia. We need you. The words hung in the air like a bombshell. For years I had dreamed of this moment, hearing them admit they needed the very daughter they once threw out like trash. But instead of triumph, all I felt was a hollow ache. I leaned back, folding my arms. You called me a burden, a waste. You told me I wasn't welcome under your roof. Do you remember that? My father's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. Do you know what it felt like, I continued, my voice shaking, to carry those words every single day? To wonder if I was really worthless because my own parents believed it. My mother sobbed quietly, but I didn't let it stop me. I slept on couches. I starved some nights. I clawed my way up from nothing while you sat in that house pretending I didn't exist. And now, suddenly, you need me? Neither of them spoke. They just sat there, crumbling under the weight of the truth they couldn't deny. Finally, my father whispered, "We made a mistake." I wanted those words to heal me, but they didn't. The scars ran too deep. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Here's the thing, I said. I don't need revenge. I don't need to hurt you the way you hurt me. Because my life already proves you were wrong. I'm not a burden. I never was. And the woman sitting in front of you now is stronger than you ever imagined she could be. My mother reached across the table again, her voice breaking. Olivia, please, we don't have anyone else. We're sorry, truly. I stared at her hand, trembling in the space between us. Then I looked at their tired faces, the same faces that had once turned away from me without a shred of mercy. And in that moment, I realized my revenge wasn't about slamming doors or walking away. It was about standing tall in the very place they once crushed me. I'll help you, I said finally, my voice calm but firm. But understand this: what I give is a choice, not an obligation. You don't own me. You don't get to decide my worth. You threw me out, and I built myself from the ground up. That's on me, not you. They nodded, humbled, their eyes cast down. I stood, gathering my things. This is who I am now. Remember that the next time you think someone is too weak, too lost, or too broken. Because sometimes the people you throw away are the ones who rise the highest. As I walked out of the cafe, the autumn wind hit my face, cool and freeing. For the first time in years, I felt light. The chains of their rejection had finally fallen away. My revenge wasn't cruel. It wasn't loud. It was quiet, powerful, undeniable. They once threw me out like trash. Now they had to look me in the eye and admit the truth: I had become everything they said I couldn't be. And that, to me, was the sweetest victory. So, what about you? Have you ever been underestimated, rejected, or treated like you were nothing, only to come back stronger? If you have, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more tales of betrayal, resilience, and sweet revenge, because sometimes, the best revenge is simply living your best life.